88%. That's the destruction rate of Russian assault groups before they reach Ukrainian defensive lines near Kupiansk. Not during combat. Before combat. They never arrive. This isn't artillery. It isn't air power. Ukraine doesn't have air superiority. Russia doesn't either. Both sides are fighting under contested skies, which according to every NATO manual written in the last 70 years should make large-scale defensive operations nearly impossible. Yet, Russia's January 20th offensive, targeting Holubivka, Petropavlovka, Podoli, Kucherivka, Pischane, and Stepova Novoselivka, resulted in 0 territorial gains. The Institute for the Study of War delivered a flat verdict: did not advance. The reason is a system that military planners 2 years ago would have called science fiction. A robotized kill zone stretching 25 kilometers from the front line, built in approximately 2 months by a single unit, the Orion drone strike group, part of Ukraine's Pomsta Brigade under the state border guard. Russian vehicles cannot operate within 20 to 25 kilometers of contact lines. Infantry cannot approach within 1 kilometer. Those who try join the 88%. This is Kupiansk, a logistics hub Russia has sacrificed thousands to recapture. A city where fewer than 100 Russian soldiers now remain, trapped, systematically eliminated, and the system destroying them costs less than a single T-90M tank. Welcome to the end of the armored offensive. Layer 1, the channeling. The kill zone is not just drones in the sky. It's a synchronized multi-layer system engineered to funnel, slow, expose, and destroy. Start with the ground itself. Anti-tank ditches force vehicles into predictable routes. Dragon's teeth, concrete pyramids weighing hundreds of kilograms, block armor from maneuvering. Razor wire coils stretch across fields, connected by thick metal cables. Then comes Plutanka, a network of thin metal wires anchored into the ground, stretched horizontally over several meters, nearly invisible. Russian infantry step into it. The wire tangles boots, shreds ankles, immobilizes soldiers in the open. They become stationary targets. These aren't random obstacles. They create deliberate pathways, routes that appear navigable. Russian commanders see gaps in the barriers and send assault groups through them. What they don't see is that every gap is pre-sighted, every pathway monitored. Layer 2. The EYE's reconnaissance drones maintain constant aerial coverage. Laleka UAVs, Ukrainian-designed systems with 4-hour endurance, anti-jamming capabilities, and encrypted communication across multiple frequencies. Mavic commercial drones adapted for military reconnaissance. Nothing moves undetected. The drones relay real-time coordinates to strike units. Thermal imaging identifies infantry at night. Movement near the fortifications triggers immediate targeting solutions. The system operates 24 hours a day without requiring personnel on the front line. Ground robots patrol sections of terrain, laying additional mines remotely. One documented mission, a Ukrainian UGV, traveled 20 kilometers round trip to deliver 12 anti-tank mines directly to a Russian staging area. The robot placed the mines, returned to base, 0 casualties. Layer 3, the Hammer FPV kamikaze drones loiter in designated sectors, awaiting targeting data. When reconnaissance drones identify movement, the strike package launches. A standard engagement involves 5 to 12 FPV drones on a single target. They operate in coordinated swarms. Speed, over 100 kilometers per hour. Warhead, 1 to 2 kilograms. Cost, $400 to $1,000 per unit. Russian soldiers hear the buzzing. Some attempt evasive maneuvers. Some fire small arms, occasionally destroying one drone. It doesn't matter, more are already inbound. The chase ends the same way. Then there is the human factor. A captured Russian soldier, call sign Begunok, meaning runner, illustrates the system's lethality. His assignment: guide assault groups through the kill zone to launch attacks on Ukrainian positions. He attempted this mission 3 times. On all 3 attempts, every soldier in his group was killed by drones. Begunok was the sole survivor each time. On the 3rd mission, he surrendered to a Ukrainian FPV drone, waving a white flag at the camera. The drone escorted him to Ukrainian lines. He is alive because he stopped trying to cross the kill zone. A Russian T-90M main battle tank cost approximately $3 million. A BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicle, $1.5 million. An MTLB armored personnel carrier, $200,000. An FPV drone with warhead costs $500. As of early 2025, FPV drones account for 65% of Russian tank losses in this war. For the T-90M specifically, approximately 50% of total losses resulted from FPV strikes. These drones attack tracks first, immobilizing the vehicle, then strike top armor or optics for the kill. The cost ratio is not sustainable for the attacker. To cross a kill zone defended by 10,000 FPV drones, worth $5 million total, Russia must commit armor and infantry worth hundreds of millions. And even then, 88% don't reach their objective. Ukraine, on the other end, is producing 200,000 drones per month as of late 2024. Plans call for 4.5 million drones in 2025. By December 2024, Ukraine was on track to receive 3 million drones by end of year, 2.5 times more than all of 2024. This is industrialization of asymmetric warfare. Ukraine's new defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, former minister of digital transformation, has set a monthly attrition target, 50,000 Russian casualties. Last month, 35,000 were killed, all verified on video. Fedorov's statement, "If we reach 50,000, we will see what happens to the enemy." They view people as a resource, and shortages are already evident. The kill zones are central to this strategy. Ground robots delivered nearly 300 tons of cargo to Ukrainian front lines by October 2025. In Pokrovsk, 90% of all supplies now arrive via unmanned ground vehicles, not human porters. This reduces casualty rates for logistics operations to near zero. Russia is attempting counter tactics. Smaller assault groups, 5 to 10 soldiers, try to infiltrate through gaps in surveillance coverage. This has failed. Even when small units penetrate the kill zone, they arrive depleted, without heavy weapons, unable to hold ground. The 100 Russian soldiers currently trapped in Kupiansk are the result of this tactic. Russia is also deploying its own ground robots for supply runs and occasional satchel charges. These are defensive applications. They do not counter Ukraine's offensive use of UGVs for remote mining. Russia's kill zones exist, but serve a fundamentally different purpose. Russia is the attacking force. Putin orders frontal assaults. Ukraine does not. Ukraine counterattacks only when it has identified weaknesses and committed precision assets, such as mid-range Bulava and Ram 2X drones with 100-kilometer range, capable of striking Russian drone control nodes. The economic equation favors the defender who fights with machines, not the attacker who fights with men. Current NATO and U.S. combined arms doctrine prioritizes air superiority as the foundation of modern ground operations. Destroy enemy air defenses, destroy enemy aircraft, establish control of airspace, then advance armor with close air support. Kupiansk proves that doctrine is obsolete. Neither Ukraine nor Russia has air superiority. Both have advanced air defense networks denying manned aviation. Yet Ukraine has constructed an impenetrable defensive system without a single fighter jet. The mechanism is drone superiority. Dominance below the radar threshold, where manned aircraft cannot operate and traditional air defenses cannot efficiently engage, combined with smart obstacles that channel attackers into kill zones. This creates area denial equivalent to air superiority without the trillion-dollar cost of stealth fighters and carrier groups. NATO officials are watching. The Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, DIANA, has initiated programs to study drone integration, but many member states remain anchored to past conflict models. Current NATO force structures treat drones as supporting assets rather than core elements. This is a critical miscalculation. In Ukraine, drones account for over 70% of combat kills, a proportion increasing monthly. NATO officers lecture Ukrainian commanders on doctrine, while those same Ukrainian officers hold 3 years of combat experience against a peer adversary using drone swarms. The gap between theory and reality is dangerous. Is this the end of the tank rush era? For 80 years, armored breakthroughs defined maneuver warfare. Concentrated tank columns, supported by mechanized infantry and artillery, punch through defensive lines and exploit deep into rear areas. This worked in 1944, 1967, 1991, 2003. It does not work in 2026. The problem is not that tanks are useless. Ukraine still deploys armor and counteroffensives at Kharkiv, Kherson, and Kursk. The problem is that mass tank assaults are suicide against drone-saturated defenses. Tanks are eliminated not by anti-tank missiles costing tens of thousands of dollars, but by FPV drones costing $500. Experts warn that drones cannot replace tanks in offensive operations. Correct, but drones can annihilate tank offensives in defensive operations. The result is strategic stalemate, favoring the defender. This has profound implications. Future territorial conflicts will not be decided by rapid armored maneuvers. They will be decided by whoever can sustain industrial production of disposable strike systems. Whoever can field 100,000 drones controls the terrain. Whoever cannot loses. Ukraine is already replicating the Kupiansk model. Kill zones now cover Pokrovsk and Dobropilya sectors. Artillery and airstrikes coordinate with drone swarms to create overlapping fields of fire. Ukrainian National Guard spokesman Ruslan Muzychuk. A kill zone is not just the area between our and Russian positions. It can extend beyond the defensive line, and it must be calculated in both directions. The Institute for the Study of War recommends extending these zones across the entire 1,200-kilometer front. If Ukraine can deny Russian vehicle operations within 50 kilometers of the line, Russian infantry would be forced to infiltrate untenable distances on foot. The current 25-kilometer restriction is already collapsing Russian logistics. A 50-kilometer zone would make offensive operations impossible. But this model extends beyond Ukraine. Every NATO border with Russia or China could be defended with automated drone networks at a fraction of the cost of garrisoning divisions. The Baltic states, Poland, Taiwan, South Korea. The challenge is production capacity and operator training. Ukraine has mobilized its tech sector. The Brave Ones Defense Innovation Cluster includes over 2,300 companies and 4,900 defense technology developments. Over 700 grants totaling 2.6 billion hryvnia have been issued. NATO has no equivalent industrial base. Western militaries remain dependent on exquisite, expensive systems, Javelins, Patriot missiles, F-35s that cost orders of magnitude more than the threats they counter. This is economically unsustainable in a conflict involving millions of disposable munitions. Kupiansk is not just a battle, it is a preview. The era of surprise armored breakthroughs is over. The era of robotic area denial has begun. Defenders who invest in mass-produced autonomous systems will hold territory indefinitely against attackers relying on conventional combined arms. Attackers will face a choice: accept strategic stalemate or develop counter-drone technologies that do not yet exist at scale. Russia chose to continue assaulting. The result: 88% attrition before contact, 100 soldiers remaining in a city that was supposed to fall in weeks, and a kill zone expanding daily. The something that shouldn't exist is rewriting the rules, and Russia is learning what happens when you fight the last war in someone else's